Welcome, Lee. Happy to have you in here. I'm TopHatCat. I'm hosting here joined with Savage Nation. We're going to be talking about their project a little bit, but first, Lee, if you could just maybe introduce yourself, just let us know a little bit about yourself, maybe background in Web 2 or Web 3, or just how you got started with, or involved rather, with Savage Nation.
Sounds good. And yeah, thank you, TopHatCat, for the introduction. Thank you for having me here. Background on me personally. So I came into Web3 September 2021. So just before, I guess, things really heated up. Prior to that, I was running a couple online education businesses, building them from the scratch, from startup. And that was my background. I was heavily into the online marketing space, Facebook advertising, paid media, Google, YouTube advertising. So I came from a background which was very much around this whole online world. Always been very fascinated with online and online businesses and how they're going to shape the future. And so when I discovered the NFT space, I was fascinated. I was fascinated by people buying these pictures and selling them for more money, right? Which is how we all come into the space. Found it very interesting, and I found very interesting was how communities were being built in these new platforms, being Discord and Twitter, and these are places that I didn't spend a lot of time before. And so I just found it really interesting from a marketing, from a community perspective. And then naturally came into the space to trade. And then I was trading maybe from September 2021, just diving in, trying to learn as much as I could, and just be in as many communities as I could to understand the space, what it was all about, where it was going. And yeah, just being here ever since, really, just staying as close as I can to everything that's happening. And then maybe like mid last year, came on board with Underground, headed up their marketing. And then more recently, beginning of this year, I came on board with Savage Nation, and this was a decision that it took me a minute to get my head around, because I was very much a person who was skeptical in the space of projects, of people. I think it's the best way to be, given all the things that's happened over the past couple of years of projects and rugs and all those experiences. And so I saw the way the guys were kind of building their community and the art, and that just kind of stood out to me. The artist Mad Cobra, he's got a very unique style. I connected with it. A lot of pop culture references, from video gaming as a kid in the 90s, playing since Super Nintendo, N64. It just kind of took me back to my childhood, and I enjoyed the art and what was happening over there. And I just appreciated how the guys were delivering at the time. They were meeting their deadlines and delivering. And as I was watching the way they executed, I saw that they just needed to step things up if they were going to get themselves more recognition in the space. And so I came on board to head up more the communication side, help them build out the marketing strategy and the bigger brand vision. And so that's kind of where we are now. And so, we run weekly spaces, we work with other projects, collaborate. And then behind the scenes, we're kind of focusing on the bigger play of Savage Nation and how we could build this into an IP, bigger brand kind of outside of the Web3 space. But that's where we are today.
Love it, man. Yeah, I appreciate the background. It's really interesting. Obviously a lot of opportunity in the NFT space if you're already in like online entrepreneurship. So yeah, seems like a perfect fit. I didn't know you ran marketing for Underground and whatnot, man. That's pretty cool. And I'm glad that you are the one that's here today, because most of the questions I have are brand focused and sort of like where you guys are headed to in the future. So I'm glad that you were the one that came here. I'm glad we're having this talk. So if you could, for the uninitiated, just give us like a quick sort of like high level, like top down view on Savage Nation. What it kind of stands for and what it kind of maybe spawned from, just what its purpose is.
Yeah, so the one-liner is that it's an art and lore focused collection with 10 unique fighters, and each of these fighters and these NFTs characters, they have their own stories, their own abilities, and their own traits, and they're all fighting their way through Arcadia, which is the world that they're in. And so it's kind of just building upon this art lore category of NFTs that many projects are aspiring to be in. And so what we're really heavily focused on is how do we build out these characters? Because you see NFT collections, there's a lot of different types of characters and traits and personalities, and like we wanted to go a bit deeper into how do we get people to really connect and feel like they really understand these characters. And so one thing we integrated was AI technology. One of the things we wanted to do was like bring their personality to life. So we integrated ChatGPT. We input lots of information about their backstory, their personalities, their likes and dislikes. And over on our Discord, if you're holding one of the 10 characters, you can go and interact with that same character in Discord, and they'll talk back to you, and they'll have a conversation, and they might say things to you, they might respond in their own unique ways. But you can start to have this experience, this kind of Web3 AI experience with the characters, and you can learn more about them that way. So this was just something that we thought wasn't being done before. It's not been tapped into in this space in this unique way of using AI as a form of communication. And so that was like part of how we started thinking about how do we build these characters out. So that's like the first part. The main reason why, I'd say the community's been building is because people really vibed with the art. Slide, who heads up the operation, came across Mad Cobra's art and was you just see it very much fitting in the Web3 space. Mad Cobra had never done anything in Web3 and NFTs before. He's been an artist for over 15 years, worked with brands like Discord, Nintendo, a lot of very reputable brands in the real world. And so he wanted to create something with his own personal touch to it, something that he felt was more connected to him. And so he was drawing from a lot of his personal experiences as a child, from video gaming to anime to manga. And that's what the collection really spawned from. And the lore as well, very much coming from his creativity. And so now we've got this really, great visually looking brand, aesthetics and characters. It's now, how do we then take this to the next level, right? Which is always going to be the big challenge for NFT projects. But yeah, very much focused around the art and the lore and trying to stay in that lane, because it can be very tempting for projects to go and follow the next meta and try to like be something they're not. And I've been very focused, and we've been very committed to like giving our holders more of what they came here for, but then building upon that. How can we over deliver, but under promise in that same time? Given that we're in a space where there's been quite the opposite of over promise and under deliver. How can we be something different and under promise and over deliver? So that's been a big focus, and how we then take this brand to something more than just being an NFT collection.
Love it. Yeah. Okay. Got it. So yeah, art and lore kind of storytelling project. You got some AI components sprinkled in there, which I think is very cool, being able to chat with the characters and stuff. And then we've got the artist Mad Cobra. Can I ask how you guys got linked up with Mad Cobra? I love his art, but I'm just curious, like, was that like a connection that you already had before, or did you guys kind of like all come together and like meet to do this project, or how did Mad Cobra get involved?
Yeah, so I don't know the specific mechanics of how they came about. I came into the project like just after the reveal, like as a member to support them. I believe they were connected before, or Slide again came across his style, came across him online, and they connected. I don't know in what capacity. Maybe it was through a forum or more personally. But again, it was an idea that Mad Cobra had, and he just didn't have the technical capabilities to execute. And I think that's where a lot of artists come into the space, right? They come in with this idea, but they just don't know how to execute. And then having Slide and the team be able to like deliver and produce all of the developmental side allowed that vision to come to life. And so I think it was quite a slow process. It wasn't like they found him and then he suddenly came on board and created the project. He was working on the art for about 10 months. In the lead up to the reveal, to the mint. So, it was a long process, but I think initially it was potentially a few conversations, vibed with his art, saw that he hasn't been in the space, and he wanted to create something that he could feel proud about. And that's how it kind of got started.
Gotcha. Real quick, I just want to do a couple of disclaimers. Normally I give them at the top. I was just excited to jump in. If anybody has any questions as we go here, feel free to drop those over and guest questions, and I'll make sure that we get those answered. And then also a unique personal disclaimer for me. I hold quite a few Savage Nations. I'm bullish on the project. That's why I bought in, and I'm happy to have him in here and talk to him. But I am biased. I just want to throw it out there. But that's not going to stop me today from asking some tougher questions. And I think one of them kind of what you said earlier kind of segued into one of them. So I'm going to go ahead and jump to that. So you kind of mentioned under promising and over delivering, right? And like the only real negative thing that I could find about Savage Nation, it was one of the first things that I saw. It was on the website. And if you go to the FAQ, the very first thing is basic info. And it says, what's the utility? And it says, if you're looking for a utility project, this probably isn't for you. Our goal is to create art, and so on and so on. So I read that and I was like, wow, that's an odd stance to take. You know what I mean? Like just like straight out the gate, no utility, you're not going to get it. But then, I immediately, dug a little deeper and I saw, okay, but they are building shit. They are doing things. And hell, you could even argue that the AI is a utility, right? Like, cause it's a holder benefit. So I was like, maybe they're just saying that to like under promise, but it just felt so aggressively of an under promise that it made me scratch my head a little bit. So yeah, is there any thoughts there or your guys' philosophy as far as utility?
Absolutely. So, when they wrote the FAQ, this was all before the mint happened, right? And where it was such a heavily focused project around the art, around the law, with just ultra focus on like making it great. I don't think initially at the time the team wanted to overextend themselves and come up with things that didn't feel like they could achieve, right? Which is understandable. It's in this space, I feel like the projects who have overpromised like what they're going to be able to deliver has led to a lot of disappointment. And so when I read that statement initially, which was before the mint, I respected it, and I was like, okay, like I respect that. You're not trying to sell me a dream here. So if I know what I'm buying into, so the bare minimum is I'm going to get some great art. And but certainly from that statement on the FAQ, we've definitely come a long way, and we are pushing to do much more than just be an art project. And so that statement probably does need updating, given that we're not just sitting here looking at the NFTs all day and smiling at them. There is a lot of things happening in the background. So yeah, that's not actually a fair statement on the FAQ. It definitely probably needs to be expanded on, given there is things happening and there are ambitions. But I really think, for me personally, I kind of also like it, because if you come here and you read that statement, you're like, you know what? Well, I just like the art, and then you get so much more. Now you're that under promise over deliver thing comes in, and you're grateful, right? Because you weren't expecting anything, but then you got so much more. And so it's kind of like, it does kind of shoot us in the foot, which I understand, and maybe there's like some language to be tweaked around there. But I like the idea of almost being an underdog in this space, right? Like there's things that I'm doing in the background and we're having conversations that I don't want it to be like speculative and people getting hypey and like saying things and like sweeping the floor and then dumping on everybody. I kind of want us to be under the radar. I'm kind of fine with that. As long as we've got a really strong, tight-knit community and people vibe with what we're doing, that's fine for me. And there will be a point where we can take that statement from, hey, we're just an art project, to we're doing this and that and the other. So you're right. Like there is a lot more to what we're doing than it just being an art law project. Given the AI, the next big development is what we call the Orbital Supply Outpost, which is a place where you can go and take your Savage Nation fighter and upgrade them and give them better, unique traits. One of the big pieces of feedback was that the floors look very similar and they're not very desirable, which is like most 10K PFP collections. They're not all going to look great. And so we took that bit of feedback and said, well, how can we bring the level of the floor up and make people buy traits that they buy NFTs that they want? And so what better way than to come up with new unique traits for all the characters, and you can go and choose different upgrades, and suddenly the collection comes comes up, but again delivering on more of that art that we promised from the beginning. So it's not to the point that I would say I would feel ready to say, hey, we're doing so much more until it's done. I'd personally prefer to write down, this is what we're doing, rather than this is what we're going to do. And that way, when people come and see the FAQ or see what we're doing, they can see like things have been done. We're not just talking the talk. Like that's just a personal thing for me as well in life. Like I like to be somebody who does the work and shows the result rather than saying, hey, this is what I'm going to do. But there is definitely a balance there that we should strike, and maybe not fund ourselves from people coming in.
No, totally fair response, man. I get it. Yeah, you guys evolved past the original copy of the FAQ. It's totally fair. And to your credit, the second to last sentence of that blurb that I read from is, "We're not putting out a roadmap. This doesn't mean we don't have things planned." So, like, yeah, it just felt like, it was just a little too far on the scale of under promise. It was like almost like, like super under promise. Like, I promise you, we're gonna do nothing. Like, oh man, nobody wants that. But no, obviously, I could, do a little more due diligence. I could tell that was not the case. So yeah, it just sounds like some vernacular there. But
it's great feedback, man. It's great feedback. And honestly, like, I'm going to take that on board and feedback to the team, because you're right. Like, we shouldn't we shouldn't want to discourage people either. There is a balance, and I think what you've just highlighted is something that we need to consider. So I appreciate you pointing that out.
Yeah, no worries. I guess my line of thinking is, me clicking the FAQ and starting to read is more research than probably 95% of people are going to do. And then that 5% of people that did might stop reading at that point. You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, shit, and they'll just get out of there. I don't think a lot of people are doing a lot of research in this market, unfortunately, just kind of the way it goes. But now you brought up the OSO, the Orbital Supply Outpost. So I don't want to talk about that because it's pretty obviously big mechanic that you guys are focusing on right now, and I would say it's unique. It has been done in other collections and stuff, but I want to go in deeper on it and see if there's something unique in how you guys are approaching it. So I agree with the take you had said, where the floor just doesn't look that appealing, and I think it's due in part to the massive trait variety and character variety that you have in the collection. Right, you got these 10 characters, each of them has their own sets of traits. So like, if you are on Blur and you look at the floor, you're like, oh wow, this looks pretty drab, pretty plain and boring. But if you just click that top 25% tab, all of a sudden everything is lit. You know what I mean? Like, the art, just the scale from floor to higher rarities it's a big disparity. So it sounds like you guys are trying to close that gap, give people a little bit more customization. But I'm curious, just like, it's tough in Web3 to change anything that's on the blockchain, especially when you have collectors that are looking at their rarity or are looking at specific traits that they have that they don't want to let go of. So I guess maybe just talk through a little bit more about the Orbital Supply Outpost and just what it's going to do exactly, what it's going to cost us, and like your thought process in implementing it.
Yeah, sure. So, like, the exactly aside from what you said, like, the concept stemmed from feedback, right? So the community was like wanting better, looking at NFTs that they could buy and be proud of. I think that's ultimately it, right? Like, if we're going to buy something and we're going to put it in our digital wallet, we at the very least want it to be something that aesthetically looks good. Otherwise, it's going in the hidden folder, or we're just going to dump it, right? Take a profit, take a loss, whatever. We're going to get rid of it. But what happens when you now feel like you've been a part of the creation process, right? And so what I mean by that is, you take your NFT, you can give it one of these other traits that wasn't predefined before you bought it, and you can upgrade it. Right now, what that does what I kind of see from a psychological aspect is it creates a lot more of an affinity to that NFT, because now you feel like, well, I created this now. I was a part of the creation process, and I probably would want to hold this. I don't want to get rid of something that I've created, right? That's kind of one side to it. The fact that you can change the NFT into it's something that you now like, because there's always a trait that you probably wanted to change when you bought an NFT. Right, like, for example, when I had some Azuki, there was like, I didn't like the eye mask thing. Like, I loved the NFT I had, but I didn't like the eye mask of his eyes being closed, and it just looked strange. And like, if I could have changed that trait, I probably would have kept it or something, And I always find, like, in collections, there's always something that you might love all of it, or you might create this like confirmation bias where you convince yourself that you really like it, but there's something that you don't. And so I think the experience will allow holders to now firstly want to hold the NFTs that they upgrade. The experience that we've created is going to be completely gaseous as well. So just like when we created the 3-stage reveal process, where you get a cartridge and then you take it to our site, and then you can optionally choose to reveal it, which is completely gas free, so you don't have to go and burn a bunch of gas. And we wanted to replicate that experience because it was such a popular experience that a lot of the holders at the time really enjoyed the experience. And so now we've got kind of two sides. You've got people holding revealed, people holding unrevealed. I think there's around 2,000 unrevealed left. So we've got about 5,000 circulating of the revealed. And so they're becoming a lot more scarce if you have unrevealed NFTs. But now it's like taking that experience and building upon it. How can we create another experience where they don't have to pay gas, but they can enjoy more of the art? And so coming to our site that we've developed, you can go and you can preview what your Savage Nation fighter will look like with the trait upgrade. And then you can optionally decide if you want to buy that trait. Right now, the trait will be purchasable with two types of tokens. We've got silver tokens and gold tokens. These aren't ERC 1155 tokens or any kind of like tradable tokens. They're just more for our ecosystem. And so these are going to be earned through different mechanisms. So one of the easiest low-hanging fruit ways to earn a silver token is to not be listed for a snapshot. We're going to take a snapshot. And then if your NFT is within that snapshot, you're going to be eligible to claim one silver token, which will equate to, whatever you want to get from the shop. There'll be a different price and different tier for the upgrades, depending on their rarity and their scarcity. So depending on how many there are of it. And you can accumulate more of these silver tokens through other avenues as well. So today we just announced our tweet to earn. So if you tweet and then you use our Discord command, you can like accumulate kind of internal points, which will equate to getting more silver coins. So this was a part of another strategy here. So we've got the delisting for the snapshot, which is like easy way of just being recognized for like supporting and not being listed naturally. And then the tweet to earn is now rewarding people from our community that are ambassadors and helping spread the word. And then we're going to have a game to earn as well. So we're going to have a games event where if you win, come second, third, whatever, you're going to be able to earn more coins. And so we wanted to have a broad appeal. So because everybody in the space has different strengths and different things they like to do. Some people like to game, some people just like to chill and hold their NFTs. Some people like to be a bit more active on Twitter and social media. So we want to have different ways of earning these coins through for the different types of people in the space. And then the gold coins will be for our one-of-one ultimate holders. So there's 20 in the collection. Anyone's holding a gold cartridge or one-of-one will get a gold coin. And anybody who's holding the full set of 10 fighters as well is going to get some gold coins as well. So it's really something that we wanted to bring back the value, because everybody who was buying the full set of 10 characters wanted to have some utility, some value, more than everybody else, which is fair because you've invested more and you deserve that. So we wanted to give them the higher tier option as well of getting the gold coins so that they can upgrade to much rarer traits, which of course, as you mentioned as well, does change the rarity slightly of the collection. And so, yeah, the NFT you have will change, hopefully for the better if you're going to get a rarer trait. And so it does change things a little bit, but this is kind of where it also becomes a bit more of a game, right? Like, what do you want to do? Do you want to upgrade? Do you want to keep your coins? Do you want to do you want to get in the shop and grab the best traits before they run out? So there's a lot of things to think about, which again is just playing into more of like the fun experience of what it means to be a Web3 brand. And so, yeah, we're kind of excited for both that experience, seeing what people choose, and really trying to help us get that more viral effect of people are communities excited about their NFTs. Now they're going to have more chances of sharing, which will hopefully bring in more attention to the project. So yeah, it's like a bit of a test, everything in Web3, but I feel really good about this. I feel like the traits and the quality of the traits will be really appreciated, because again, that's what most of our holders came for and are expecting. And so more of that is certainly on the cards, which will just be more of a fun experience, especially for the people in the space who are more holders and collectors.
Got it. Wow, a lot to unpack there. I guess the first question I would have is, you said you're doing a snapshot, so it sounds like it's going to be on chain, but not tradable. The tokens. I mean, how are you guys pulling off the gasless transactions?
So that's with the dev. I don't know the specific mechanics of it. I just know that the same way the reveal experience was gasless, the same way this will be gasless. The tokens that you receive that will sit in like your Savage Nation wallet, they can be transferred though. So you can transfer your silver coin or your gold coin outside or to another wallet or to other people if you want. But the technical capacity of how it works to make it gasless, I don't know. I just know that the devs are very sharp and very good, and that was one of the big the big things that we wanted to focus on as well, was like if you're going to make an experience in the space kind of fun, you don't really want to make people have to like interact a lot with the blockchain and burn a bunch of gas. And this is from my personal experience as well. Like I remember when I first got on a marketplace, I think it was like the Gojira marketplace early days when they were brand new, one of the first. Like I had to spend like, a couple $100 on gas, like just to like interact and stuff. And it's a bit of a bummer, this, like when you have to spend gas on just like interactions with the blockchain. And so, yeah, I think a big part of it was how do you make more enjoyable Web3 experiences? And I think this is where layer twos are really going to start taking precedent in this space, because being able to go on, Arbitron or Matic and like just pay, almost nothing in transaction fees to do something, makes it much more enjoyable. And I feel like it's going to encourage a lot more participation and action in the space. And so, yeah, the technical perspective, how they've achieved this, I personally, I'm not too close to that. But just
no, that's like, totally fine. Yeah, no worries at all. Honestly, it didn't even occur to me until you said it that the reveal was gasless, and it's obviously on a L1. That never really clicked in my brain. That's pretty impressive. Do you mind sharing the information about like who your all's devs are? Have they worked on anything else notable, or are they Web2 people, or is there anything you can tell about the dev side?
Yeah, like Delusional is a reputable developer in the space. Works very closely with us, like primarily focused on Savage Nation, and committed to our project. I believe he has worked on other projects in the past. I don't know what specifically, but I know he's very like known, known in the space of development anyway. And I don't know if he's working on anything else, but like, yeah, and we've got a few behind the scenes developers just to like bring this all together as well. But Delusional is like fully focused on Savage Nation. Like if we have something that needs to be done, like the OSO, like his commitment is to us. But he's obviously freelancer as well, so he can work on other things. But the commitment is like when we've got an activation or something coming up, he's there to push that forward for us, which is how everything's been well timed. Like even, this was just before I came on, like the announcements and like everything was to a T, like the timing, when the site was ready, the mint, the reveal, like everything was like hit to the point. There was no errors, no contract mistakes, no one lost ETH, all of those things that can happen. I mean, even just the other day, which project was it? There was a project, was it Momoguru, right? Which was like this huge project, had things going wrong, and it happens in the space. But I was very impressed, like the fact that everything was just dialed in, and there was literally no mistakes. Nothing that could have flooded the project, or nothing that could have like burnt holders or people coming into the project. So from my perspective, again, prior to coming on board and being on board, everything's been very smooth, and from an experiential point of view.
Sounds like the devs did something, man. It's a unique take, being able to hear this too. Well, not take, just a unique experience for us to be able to hear this, because usually we talk to people pre-mint, so they tell us everything's under control and that it's going to go smooth, and then we watch everything crash and burn. So yeah, that's definitely something to hang your hat on, man. A smooth experience where no one lost money. Yeah, definitely kudos to you for that. One more question I had on the OSO. So is there going to be a supply, like maximum supply on these traits? Like I posted a picture here in office hours chat of like these really dope like spirit wolves. They just look so sick, and like I could imagine something like that, or something of equal quality and coolness, where everyone was going to want it. So I'm picturing a scenario where a cool trait is not rare because everyone wants to get it and everyone adds it to their thing. So is there a max supply, or is there some sort of like raffle or gas war for the cooler ones? So like what are people going to, well, there's no gas war obviously, but yeah, is there some sort of system? Are people going to just race to click, or is it just open OE on all of these traits?
Yeah, no, there's definitely going to be a limited supply, certainly of like the rarer ones. There'll be enough. I think it would just be a matter of like deciding what you want and trying to be as quick to it. What we're going to put out an image of like all of the traits soon, like a bit like the Supreme. There's like the Supreme image of like all the different brand like clothing and gear. So you're going to be able to see from a high level like what's going to be available. We're talking about that because again, some feedback from some of the holders was like can we see what's going to be there so we can decide what we want? Absolutely. So we're going to do that. And then, there will be a limited supply. So it will be first come, first serve. But there will be enough that we're not going to do it like 5. There's not going to be like 5 of that trait, and then there's going to be loads of disappointed people. But there needs to be some element of scarcity, right? Because from what I've learned in my time in marketing is like if we want to get people to do things, it can't just be an open-ended, never-ending supply, right? Or of anything. I mean, if you think about even the way this OE method goes, it's like unlimited supply, but then in the last 3 minutes, loads of people start minting because there's going to be a mint out, right? And it comes to an end. But if the OE was unlimited forever, nobody would buy it because it doesn't create enough demand. So same kind of thing happening here, where we want to make these traits somewhat rare in like and the desirability, and to do that, it's about having a limited supply, but also the Orbital Supply Outpost is only going to be open for a limited time as well. And this is just all about encouraging action, and humans, we need reasons to do things. We don't just do things of our own accord. So if there is some element of time limitation or scarcity, we normally act a bit quicker, and which for us is going to encourage more interaction with Savage Nation, and again bring in our holders, bring the people who are like committed and excited, which is part of our vision and our purpose of the Orbital Supply Outpost. And then once the community is like, once you've got the traits and the upgrades that you're happy with, now we can focus on the next step.
Love it. Makes a lot of sense. All right, I got something for you, man. Hear me out. Okay. One of one traits inside of the OSO, but to buy them, it's a blind auction on your tokens. Huh?
Oh, I like that. That's a great idea. And you know what? Like, we can do so much. Like the OSO, this is just the first opening of it. So, like, this isn't going to be like a one and done thing. This is just the first opening. So things like that are definitely in the vision. There's just between us here, we haven't really shared anything. We're looking at what we can do in terms of like physical stuff as well in the future. Like, how can we use this shop to create opportunities to redeem things that are physically created, whether it's something from Mad Cobra, piece of art, something that again our holders would love. There's a lot of ideas around that, and I think that's a great idea. Blind auction, use your tokens out. I'll actually make a note of that and put that back to the team. But I think just delivering more great art, and without more importantly with this as well is to not oversaturate our supply and create too many new things for people. Like I've noticed in projects where there's just so many different collections and drops, it becomes very distorted, and the attention of the community becomes too spread between thousands of different NFTs and several different collections. And I feel like this space has shrunk so much, certainly from when I came in, and from when you came in, TopHatCat. Like there was a lot more participants, right? And so I don't really feel like it makes sense for us to be as a collective to be making hundreds of thousands of NFTs just yet, and unless we're going for that mainstream adoption, because most of the participants now are just like the super maxi NFT people who are like almost addicted, right? And that's why we're still here. And so I feel like just finding that balance of like not oversaturating the collection, keeping it to more quality rather than quantity is what we need to focus on. Being a small underdog in the space of NFTs.
Totally, man. No, yeah, I feel like something that kind of drew me to Savage Nation is just a little bit different is the community. Like I really did I can't really vibe with many communities outside of MVHQ. It's like every time I leave these walls, everything is just like weird and cringe. But like, I don't know, man, inside of Savage Nation, people just seem to be genuine. And it's like a weird thing that you can't like measure or like quantitate, but it's just there. Like the other day I saw some weird activity on Blur, and it looked like a dude got drained of his full unrevealed set, and I was like, fuck. So I just took a screenshot and I just popped it into the full set chat, and I was like, yo, I think one of the homies got drained, and I mean, members ended up buying parts of his set and sending it back to him at no charge. Like it's just different. It's like some shit we would do in here. Like the community just built different, so you love to see it. But no, totally agree with everything you're saying. I want to kind of move on a little bit from the OSO, just because there is a bunch of other stuff that I want to cover, and I don't want to spend too much time on one topic. One thing that kind of drew my eye to Savage Nation was the animation. When I first went to the website, it's a full screen video that plays, some kids in an arcade playing on a arcade machine, and then it zooms in and it starts showing the characters, and it's kind of presented almost like a Mortal Kombat style like fighting arcade game. That had me pretty hyped, and I was like, oh man, like this looks so dope. Like I pictured like an actual game, and obviously I've read through the docs and stuff like that. I know that a game is not on the table, or at least now. But I'm just kind of curious, why not? Is it because it's just not something in your all's wheelhouse, or is it something you guys are just like adamantly against? Because it seems like the whole IP and like brand would lend itself really well. I mean, it's all about a combat, right? Like they're fighting each other. Is it just something that's not in the cards for you guys, or is it not aligned with your philosophies, or what's the thoughts there?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a very fair question. I feel like it's one of the early questions that we got a lot. And one thing that we just didn't want to lead on, which was like, we're building a game, and so we almost became anti-game only in the early stages, because we didn't want people to come in, make that speculation, and then go around spreading rumors, and then destroy the collection. So we were like very adamant and very transparent. This is not a game. We're never going to build a game. But like you said, there's like never say never in some ways, because the IP, the potential is definitely there. I think the big limitation is of course skill set and capabilities. I think people maybe underestimate what it takes to build a game. We were both around for Pixelmon. I was one of the fortunate early investors of Pixelmon that got to ride the Dutch auction down. And I think from that experience, where you've come on a project, somebody's come on and said, I'm going to build this, the next Pokemon. It does bring a certain level of expectation and patience as well. I mean, for holders for a game to be built takes a lot of time and effort. And we see Daigaku, Limit Break coming in with their huge budget and capabilities. All the games that are being built, Illuvium. And like when you look at the top tier games that are being built in the space, it comes with a certain, just a different level, right? To being a small time NFT project. Like it takes a different level of team, of funding. And I would like to say that it could be a potential direction to go. If we can do things right on a small scale, and potentially get the right attention to build something more. I like to say it's an ambition and a dream, but not something that we could comfortably or confidently say we could do now. But just like knowing that the potential is there, I think is the most important thing. But I think there's certainly some steps to take before you get there, right? Like there's certainly some more brand IP oriented things that we can do and are working on right now, before we would even think that far ahead. And I think the ambition of building a game is certainly like a great end goal for an NFT project, but it shouldn't be the first step. It's like running before you can walk, right? And I feel like when projects make the ambition just to build a game for building a game's sake, they miss a lot of the opportunity which comes with building a brand. And when you look historically at the brands that have achieved 20-year plus domination across multiple generations, they weren't just a game, right? Like with the exception of Super Mario or Sonic, where these games were so early, they were the first movers of the generation of the time. They could build out their IPs, their brands in reverse from the game. But most of the more recent brands today that we recognize, they weren't games initially. They've developed games as a secondary to their brand and IP. And so, where we are now with we are Web3 digital collectibles, I certainly think there's some steps to take in between becoming the potential to have a game, which will also bring in the right attention which would make that possible from a financial point of view as well.
Totally fair, man. That may be one of the healthiest takes I've heard regarding Web3 gaming, man. Holy shit. Okay, so let's talk about those stepping stones then. Let's talk about the IP and what is achievable. Because, like, I look at this, I posted a link in Office Hours chat, the OSO next week tweet with the animation. This shit looks fire. I mean, this looks better than the $400,000 Ether trailer. It looks better. I mean, I'm a Cool Cat, man. This looks better than anything any animation Cool Cat's put out. Like, this looks incredible. So, like, how are you guys tackling? It's not very long, so I get that. So it's not like you know, you'd have to blow your brains in to do it. But like, it's good, and it's not easy to make good animation. You said people underestimate making games. I think people underestimate making everything. They just expect shit to be look good at all times and be polished and clean and neat. And this definitely checks all the boxes. So like, where are you guys at as far as animation? Is this something that is a big focus for yours? Because it seems like it should be.
Yeah, again, it's kind of building in that direction. This animation itself took ages. I mean, you know, our deadline was probably 2 weeks ago, but there's the natural tendency of like going back and forth and wanting to get it right. It does take time to create these pieces and make them high quality. Again, going back to the whole journey, it's like it's doing things. I feel like the most important thing is doing. There's something to be said about doing things in the right sequence, like in life. It's like you don't go and try and botting collections of NFTs and I don't know, like doing all this like technical stuff before you could even, you know, set up a MetaMask wallet, right? I'm talking to you guys here because, like, you know, most of the community here are traders, right? So I'm trying to like relate to the people here. It's like you don't go and try, you don't go and drop 50 ETH before you've made 1 ETH. Like, I feel like everybody just needs to like do things in the right sequence. Like before you go and, you know, think too big, you got to think kind of small, but with the big vision. You got to act small but think big. And so for us, it's like big vision is, yeah, be a game, be a this, be a TV show, be all these amazing things. But the reality is like there's a sequence to making these things a reality. And they're certainly aspirational, but I feel like we need to do things right in the smallest of ways. And so this animation is just, again, an example. It's like if we can show that we're putting a lot of effort and time and quality out there, then people will hopefully recognize that and realize that, you know, how, you know, in my opinion, is like how you do anything is how you do everything. So if we've put a lot of time and effort and made this animation to a standard that people appreciate and vibe with, then they'll understand like that's just part of how we do things in general. And that's kind of the aspirational position we want to have in the market. Is like these guys do things very well, right? They might not be the biggest, they might not have the highest floor price yet, but what they are doing is good and of quality, and we like that. We appreciate that, and we, you know, it's kind of like a demonstration of like us as a team and how we create. And so, yeah, the animation just that you've seen there is definitely a direction we can go. I think as we build out the characters and their story and the lore overall of Savage Nation, there will be room for taking things in that direction. But yeah, again, just building out the foundations, I feel, is the most important thing now. We've almost got all of our character AI activations done, so we can all interact with them in Discord. We actually had them on Twitter as well, but Twitter API like went down, so they were having some issues. You were able to talk with our characters on Discord as well. So we follow all of our characters, and you could talk with them, and they would respond. But something happened with Twitter there, so that's gone down. And then now we've got the foundation set. Now we can build upon that with the more kind of sexy stuff. And I'm kind of giving you some fluffy answers here without saying like we are doing this, because I'm very like conscious of my words and saying things that aren't true. You know, I don't want to, because I've seen it in the space and it's like disappointed me so much. So I rather be somebody who like doesn't give a straight answer, but says we aspire to have X, Y, and Z, but we don't yet. You know, and I think that's just the stance that I would rather take. So if and when we achieve those things, it's like, okay, wow, like these guys are doing the work, and that they're creating the results.
Yeah, no, totally understand. I think we're all used to reading between the lines, and I've got pretty good dodge detection myself. So if you don't answer me, I'll just ask you again in a different way. So it sounds like I like the approach. It sounds like you guys are taking the slow burn, build it, you know, just keep laying the bricks, right? One at a time, perfectly laid bricks. I'm curious though, because like the other sort of variable there is, in the whole keeping everyone's attention equation is the time, right? Because like you could, like you were saying, you can either have good stuff or you can have a bunch of stuff, but I think like the time and consistency are also pretty important variables. And it sounds like you guys are taking your time. So when you take that approach, I guess a worry that I have with 95% of projects is like this has been kind of like the winter and spring of like just rugs, just people being like, ah, yeah, shit, the market's down, like shit's not good, no volume, royalties are dead, we're just going to close the doors. And like a lot of people are shuttering. So just curious, I'm going to ask you, you don't have to answer, and if it's not something you can answer, but like I'm curious about your guys' runway. Are you guys super comfortable, or are you like still relying upon royalties, or like you guys are just set back and ready to strap in and build and not really too worried about keeping the market's attention or keeping the floor price high or things like that?
Yeah, like I think I can answer part of that. I think like we're in a good place with royalties right now. Of course, like it's always nice to have more consistency. We built the contract in a way that it's not being affected by the recent update from OpenSea, thankfully. That was a bit of a bummer, certainly for projects who rely on it. And being, given that we only minted a couple months ago, we are in a good place. We have a healthy runway, very conscious of budgeting, not wasting money. I think where projects are trying to keep up with the space and the narratives and the metas, I think that's where a lot of projects can end up burning their funds trying to do things just because they want to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak. And I will encourage us. We're not going to go in that direction. Like we'll always try and stay true to our vision of what we're doing. For me personally, like I look at like taking a step back from Savage Nation and just like thinking of a project in general. I think of the mint is like it's like a raise, right? You're raising funds to build something. And you have to budget the money. Like when I run my businesses, like I would bootstrap them. So I had to be extremely careful with my funds and how I spent them on advertising because like every dollar spent was like had to be accounted for and every dollar invested as well. And so like I became very careful with like how I invested it and everything was geared towards like how do I use this to make bring more value and make more money. Like that was the goal. And I kind of see it as the same. We have a healthy runway, but more importantly, it's for me, it's about not like most projects rely heavily on their holders to bring money back into the business. It's kind of a strange business model, really. Like people buy the NFT, you make money, and then like a lot of the time, it's like heavily focused on like making more money from the same people. I'm kind of thinking bigger and like looking at how can we bring in some of those Web2 ways of raising funds to support this business. There's different things like affiliates, certainly something that I'm taking a close interest in. How can we turn our holders into more ambassadors that we can leverage and they can benefit? And just thinking like outside the box. I think everybody in the space most projects think very much inside the box of how do I make more money from my people? How do I get the floor price up to make more money? I kind of want to take a different stance and encourage that we don't rely heavily on it. It's like a bonus, right? Like if we get royalties, it should be seen as a bonus, not as like the thing we need to survive. And so where we only minted recently, we have that healthy runway. I feel like it's almost like you've got a timeline, right? Where you either need to make shit happen or you lose. And so for me, where we're looking towards, maybe next year is a potential uplift in the economy. Again, potential and hopeful maybe, but there will be a time where I believe truly that the NFT market as well will have a huge demand. I feel like that huge run we had like last year was great, but I feel like there's still more in the tank. And for me, it's about positioning for that, being recognized. So when that time comes, your project stands out with those newer investors, that people that want to come into the space, but also the money and the brands and the VCs and the people that want to come in and invest into the space who haven't got any exposure. And so I believe like the opportunity is then raising funds in different unique ways to then turn those visions into reality. Like I said, to build a game, it's a lot of money, right? To do anything that's outside of the Web3 type of experiences, it requires funds. And so I'm very conscious of like, how can we look at this as a business, and look at different revenue avenues so that we're not reliant on this one source of income being royalties, which is right now affecting so many projects, which is kind of great because it's forcing projects to also think outside the box for themselves. Otherwise, it's like sink or swim. And so, I feel like it's focusing on the future and like the potential that we will have when the attention fully comes back into the space, and positioning so that we, if and when like, we want to do something bigger, or we feel like we're there and we're able to, we can draw from funds in a different way than relying so heavily on our holders to like buy up NFTs to get royalties. That's just an ambition. Again, it's not saying like that's what we have, but just so that you kind of have an insight into how I think about this whole Savage Nation project and like the bigger vision of like how I think projects should be focusing on building.
I'm picking up what you're putting down, man. No, yeah, totally. Most projects, it's like, oh shit, we degened our funds, or we ran out of money, and it's like second mint time for a companion collection. So, sounds good. Sounds refreshing that you guys are not planning to go that route, but that also obviously raises a big yellow flag because got to get money somehow, right? So it sounds like you guys might have some interesting monetization angles in the future. We're coming up on the hour, man. Like I could talk with you all night, but obviously I want to respect your time. So I want to kind of just pedal through the last question I have for you, which was AI. I want to talk about the AI for a bit because it's really unique, and I know we've talked about it a little bit, but I just want to kind of lay it out, just to kind of paint the picture for you. As a holder, you can go into the Discord. There's a channel for each character, and you can just go into the channel and you can just type in questions. No like slash prompts or anything. You just chat, and the character chats back, and they respond. They respond instantly. They're pretty smart. Sometimes they say some wild shit. I got some pretty weird quotes, but hey, man, it's AI, right? But like, it's pretty cool. I haven't seen anybody else even really attempting anything like this. There was also some funny scenarios, like kind of like in jokes within the community where the AI characters were like leaking alpha, like straight up saying shit that the team had planned, and of course the team is like, no, that's not true. But like, who knows, really? As a person from the outside, it's just really funny to watch. So I just want to talk about that for a little bit because it's so unique. Do you guys have future ideas for implementations and how you can use the AI? Because like obviously it's a technology that we're all fascinated with, and I'm sure you guys have had many meetings trying to figure out what to do with these characters outside of just talking to them. Would you, like, are there any like ethical or moral rules that you guys have? Like, would you take advising from these characters? Like if Jinzo spit out a really good idea for you, for the collection, does it kind of break the fourth wall? Would you guys respect their opinions? Like, that's so wild to me. It's a weird conversation. So I wanted to have it. What's up with the AI, man?
Yeah, I mean, AI, where is it going, right? What, are they going to be running one of our lives one day? It's an interesting one. And it's just been an experimental part of the project, really. Like, it's been such a narrative across the globe since ChatGPT came out. And, how bringing a more personal touch to the collection is certainly something it does. No other collection that we know of is using it in this unique way. And so they are learning. We do input things for them as like a base level knowledge, but then they do pick up information and they interpret it in their own ways. I wouldn't go as far as to say that if Jinzo or any of the fighters came up with an idea, we would be suddenly like jumping on it. If AI got to that point, I'd probably be pretty scared about more than advice I'm getting for a project. But
unplug it now. Jinzo sentient. Oh god.
Man, I mean, this is Terminator all over again, right? We're living in the future, and all those movies that we've watched has come into life. But it's just interesting. I don't know the next development for. I know, like, for example, some of the cool things that we can do is, like you've seen in the space where people have done these scavenger hunts. So we can input ideas and plant, give them information and hints to help with things like that. So it might be more like fun Web3 kind of experiences for now. But I think as the technology develops and we stay close to it and understand how it's being used, that's maybe where we all like experiment more. But for now, it's more focused around the characters, the lore as well. As we expand our lore, we'll teach them more, which is like basically input them with some more data to understand where they came from, what they're about. And then this gonna slowly like help us into, as I said, building into more the brand, the vision, the more story part of the project. But specifically AI itself, again, it was more just an experimental point of view, and we'll see where it goes. You know, I think it's been interesting listening to holders, like having the experience and enjoying talking with them. So you know, that's been quite unique in itself. So we'll see. No specific answers to like where it goes just yet.
Yeah, no, totally. Man, like I had a conversation with Yamato, and the motherfucker lied to me. He just straight up lied. He told me some stuff, and then a little bit later I asked him, and he said the complete opposite. And I called him out. I'm like, Yamato, man, you can't treat me like this. You know, where's the honesty? Maybe the Jinzo one was a little extreme, but what if Hiro says, I don't want to be a fighter anymore? You know, what are you gonna do? Like, is the lore alive or is it locked in? Like, could the lore change if something dramatic like that fucking happened, like our in the community? Because like, you know, like here in MVHQ, we have tons of like in quotes and like sayings, inside jokes and stuff. I could string together a whole paragraph of phrases that to you sound like they aren't sentences. You know what I mean? But like, is the lore ongoing? Is it going to incorporate the community and stuff like that?
100%, yeah. Like there's you know, Mad Cobra. He's still behind the scenes, like I said, working on that. And there's some plot twists coming, and lots of things that will come. And like, yeah, community will be a part of the lore direction for sure. And that's what makes it fun. That's what you know, you kind of need to make the community a part of this. Is otherwise like you're not really a Web3 PFP story project if there's like no involvement. So just like we took on feedback and input from like the more technical experiences and stuff, like we'll absolutely be hosting contests and doing different activations to get our community to be a part of the lore as well. But that's what lore is, right? It's a story. It builds. It can change. There's plot twists. There's different directions it can go. And yeah, if Hiro decides he doesn't want to be a fighter, he wants to be a normal kid and go to school, you know, maybe we'll have to get rid of him.
Hiro, man.
Burn mechanism coming soon. No, I'm joking.
Hiro, you had one job, dude. You had one job, literally. All right, well, that's awesome, man. Yeah, we're right up at the top of the hour here, so if you want, we can wrap it here. I can kind of kick it back to you. Maybe, actually, you know what? Before we do that, I want to do something a little off the cuff here. Nobody knew I was going to do this, but just I like to reward people that are just active and engaged and attentive. So for people that are here listening right now, I'm going to give away one Savage to the first person who can type into Office Hours chat something that you can do with AI with Savage Nation. So if you can tell me how AI intertwines with Savage Nation anyway, I'll drop you a Savage to your wallet. But while they're doing that, Lee, man, if you could just maybe give us some final parting words, or if there's anything that we maybe glossed over or didn't get a chance to talk about, just kind of send us home. Maybe if there's any alpha, maybe you wanna secretly sneak us or anything like that between the lines, feel free. But yeah, man, I just want to kind of give you the mic here to bring us home.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I shared quite a lot of things that we don't even share on our Savage Spaces here.
Let's go.
If I'm more intimate, right? Like I didn't feel the pressure of being on a Twitter Spaces. Like we're hosting Twitter Spaces with other communities. Like one of our strategies is to broaden our reach and connect with other communities, which hopefully brings more attention back to us. And those are a bit more, I guess, a bit more not scripted, but a bit more structured on my end. So this has been really fun, Top Hat. Like I really appreciate your questions, and the fact that you are a holder and someone who enjoys the project says even more. I just there isn't really much more to add, is except I'm gonna just be somebody who operates somewhat in the dark, but with a big vision. Like I personally see a lot of potential the same way you probably see the potential of the brand, and one of my kind of like passions is like how can we turn this into something so much more than people would even expect, and I kind of like that. I kind of want us to be in the shadows, and of course like we need to be known enough that we don't like go to zero, but I want it to be to a point that we wow people at every opportunity. And so the OSO first step, I personally would like to see us take a bigger step in how we can get more of that Web 2 touch I don't want to say bridge Web 2 to Web 3. I think that that saying's kind of gone out the window. But I really feel like there is something more that can converge, bring in Web 2, or in some way people, brands, opportunities. It's kind of blue sky at the moment, but I'm really going to be like, we're committed to like figuring that out, because it's all an area that's not been done before. It's not really a blueprint to this whole Web3 brand thing. You kind of have to create it as you go. But I'm just drawing a lot from my Web2 experiences, the people I know, the way businesses have been built, brands have been grown, and just trying to figure out like how can we do something different in the space. Like I'll be honest, like I don't really look at other projects and try and think like, how can we do that? Like I kind of focus my focus is always like outside of the space and focus on like what's happening outside there, because if it's happening out there, I think there's opportunities here, versus like just looking at all the other projects and trying to be a me too. But that's really it. I'm kind of rambling on here really, but I just want to say actually, TopHatCat, thank you. Like I've seen you in the space, very committed for, even from when I came in, you've been here longer than that. I actually saw your videos on YouTube as I kind of started my DJing journey. So I just want to acknowledge you as well for being so committed to the space, even as we've come into like the most bleak times, and especially as an alpha community, right? It's tough, given that the market isn't the greatest for your fellow traders. It's not the greatest. The narrative, the sentiment, the techniques, it's hard. And so just to be here and still have enthusiasm and excitement, and create content, especially which I see you doing with MVHQ. I would want to commend you all that you're all still sticking around and staying here and showing up for the community, because it's very hard. It's a very hard time to be in the space and to keep morale high. And even taking time out your evening and just talking with a project like this, and just doing it out of your goodwill and pleasure. So yeah, I just want to say thank you as well. Thank you so much for making time for this and your commitment to the space. I think there should be some award ceremony, and you should get something for your commitment, man.
Oh Jesus, you're gonna make me emotional, man. Stop. No, my reward is our community cooking. So I appreciate everything you're saying, man. Like I agree with I see the potential. Obviously, it's why I have fucking 20 savages or so. I've checked everything out. Like we're all familiar with all the projects that appear on NFT Nerds or any top 10 volume for the day. And obviously you guys had a massive pump around the mint. So it was on people's radar, but it's really hard once the volume is gone to get people to take another look. But I took another look and I liked everything that I saw. I'm like, fire art, fire animation, communicative team, like there's no FUD, the community's good. Like I just didn't see the problem. The problem seemed like there's no volume. So when I see that and I say, okay, well the problem is just that there's no volume, that's when it turns into an alpha call to the family here. So I've been chilling Savage Nation, just saying, hey man, keep this on your radar, pay attention to this. But it's like I said, it's hard to get people to take another look. So I'm glad that you guys had the time to come in here and talk, just so if people have more questions, I can point them to this, man, because I feel like it's been a very eye-opening interview too, man. It's made me more bullish than when we came in here. So appreciate you taking the time, man. Kudos. Keep on trucking along. Project looks good. Eventually the volume will come, right? And it sounds like you guys are comfortable just building and cruising along. So that's the recipe for success, and I'm excited to be here and be a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate that so much. Sorry, did my headphones disconnect? No, I appreciate you, TopHatCat, and like hopefully this is a good resource for the community to come back and listen to. And yeah, feel free to connect with me if anybody does have any questions. You can DM me on Twitter at NFTXLee, over here on Discord. Mostly on my Twitter DMs are easier. If you have any questions, always happy to answer any questions. Of course, you can come into the Discord as well and ask questions there. You're going to get a lot of support from the community and the team as well. We are very active. We're very open to talk as well, or join one of our spaces. Many ways to interact with us. So however you like to, if you'd like to learn more, just reach out, and I'm happy to talk you through anything that anybody else has. So thank you so much.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, thank you. You get the THC stamp of approval cosign, man. Community's fire. Team is really engaged and awesome. So yeah, if you guys are interested in being part of the community, go grab yourself a Savage, and we'll see you in the server.
Hey, outro song if you like. Finish up with this.
All right.
I don't know if it will play though.
I already know what it is.
Is it playing?
It's not playing, but I know what it is.
Is it playing?
It's not, no.
Okay, never mind.
I know what
Never
it
mind.
is. It's the rap. It's the rap, right?
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool. Like, I only heard it like a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, man, this was from one of our holders. So yeah, if
Shit
anybody,
slaps, dude. Yeah, I heard it on a Spaces, and I was like, "Hey, what the fuck? That's lit as hell." It's such a good outro song, man.
it's pretty dope, man. Anyway, but yeah, thank you so much, stuff like that, and yeah, thank you everybody who joined here, and yeah, if you listen back on the replay, thanks for listening in, man. Appreciate your time.
Yep, appreciate you, man. You have a fantastic rest of your night. Let's fucking savage.
It's fucking savage.